I was on a podcast because I have my radio show now. That is fun. My radio show is my toy now. I'm literally pulling some of the most like extraordinary people in our health niche, and I'm just like, let's get in it for an hour, and I'm just drilling them, and they're just like, you know, everyone's different. I did a podcast with my friend Steve Adler. He's the founder of Sacred Chocolate, and this guy, you want to talk about transformation? This guy was a Stanford-trained rocket scientist. That was his, you know, in the early 90s. That was his thing. He was hired by this company to do, you know, technology work, and he basically hooked up with David, and then he got onto raw foods, and he heard about it from like Anthony Robbins' Unlimited Power. You know that book? And he heard about juicing. Like, that was the first book to even like equate the two, like personal development and juicing. Really? What? Get a juicer. So he heard about that and got turned on to it, and he basically got out of that whole reality and became Willy Wonka. Like, literally, he's the personification of Willy Wonka. You know, like, check it out. If you go on YouTube, type in Steve Adler, Sacred Steve Adler. The hat, the whole, except instead of like the purple, it's all like rainbow and like fluorescent colors, and he lives it. Like, I know the guy, he's one of my best friends, he lives it. And his whole thing on this, when we're doing the talk on the podcast, his whole deal was, I was talking about like the neurochemistry and the neurotransmitters and chocolate, and he's like, no, yeah, that's amazing, but really what I'm into is actually the center point in the heart. Like, okay. And he's like, that center point is that point when you're birthed onto this world, and then it's the same center point that your soul is incarnated into this point in your heart, and when you leave, it's the same point that your soul exits out. This is him. And so his whole deal is that it's all love. He said there's only one constant in the universe. It's love. He said it doesn't matter, like, he said our society is a product of the mind. It's all structure. And the mind is diving towards its own reference points to protect its validity, to protect its investments it's made. When he said that, I was like, oh, the mind. Like, it makes investments, right? We invest in our college education. So we kind of create this idea like, oh, that's the way, right? Because our parents told us. So there's another investment that just got deposited into a mental bank account, right? And so what he's talking about is like, we got to get out of the Cyberzoic age. He said chocolate is one of the biggest delivery systems to actually help us extract out of that and get us into our heart. But he said it's like, it's amazing. It's like, that's the deal. In 10 years ago or 5 years ago, I wouldn't be able to get that message. It would have been esoteric. It would have been over there. But now that the food I'm being constructed out of food built from love, right? You are what you eat, right? If you are putting food into your body that is a product of death, pain, destruction, the absence of compassion, inorganic pesticides, herbicides, rodenticides, fungicides, insecticides, all of it, well, that's going to transmit certain frequencies within you.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Is that far out?
No, it's right on.
Or is that right here, right now?
It's right on.
That's been my experience, but I didn't know it until I got onto the other end. Before, I just thought this was the normal thing. This is just what we do. Right? I mean, that's what we all thought that, right? We all grew up in that. That's what we were taught. So what's happening in our world right now, what the everlasting hope concept is this idea, and I'll backpedal here. Does anyone know who Charles Dickens is? Okay, cool. The Tale of Two Cities, right? Okay, when you open that book, what is the opening line?
It's the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was a time of infinite splendor or something like that. But that's the main part.
It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. At all times. Right? It's always like that. All throughout the eons of history. It's not this like, I thought about this lately. I was like, this is not really any different, right? The Crusades, like biblical times, going all the way. You know, I'm a big student of different cultures. I was raised with the Japanese culture and Bushido and the way of the samurai. And I studied Japanese history intensely. And it's very similar to what we're dealing with now. Star Wars, too. It's interesting. This is interesting. Like, Star Wars is the story of our civilization, basically, right? When the Jedi who are basically the noble protectors of what was right, what was just, and the integrity and honor, that kind of got traded out for politics. Right? And that's kind of what has gone on over the last 100 years, and now we're coming out of it. Right? We're coming back to this place where the spectrum has been flipped so far to one end of just nonsensical stuff that now it's swinging all the way back over. And that's what I want to impart upon you, is that this raw food movement is not just about the food. It's a gateway. It's an access point. It's an open door that, like I was talking about ayahuasca, I don't think I finished that thought, but the reason I brought the ayahuasca thing up was because ayahuasca pushes you through the door. Right? Raw food opens it and says, come on in. But you have to actually walk through. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You have freedom of choice. You have freedom of discernment. You have freedom. Surprise, surprise. We all have freedom. That right there is amazing. And that's what this kind of thing tunes you into. And it doesn't just open you up to the food. It opens you up to expanded areas of conscious exploration. I mean, since getting into this, I'm so deep into quantum physics. I'm so deep into ufology, extraterrestrial studies. Anyone know about that?
Yeah.
Right? We don't have to get into it. We certainly can on the side, right? Like how the conventional idea of evolution, right? The survival of the fittest and all that kind of interesting idea that we grew up with, and how we went from living in caves to building pyramids. I don't know. Over time, that idea is just like, I don't know about that. And so I never thought about this kind of stuff until I got onto live foods, right? All I thought about was my own personal endeavors. That's all that mattered. And then I went through this metamorphosis from the caterpillar to the butterfly, if you will, right? And so whatever that looks like for you, however that opens up for you, is totally unique and specific to you. So I just want to finish this thought with my original opening statement, is that it's not about a diet, right? There's great information out there, but consider this idea too. People that are writing the books, including myself, are writing from our own vantage point, right? Many people have cured certain illnesses, they've alleviated certain pain, and because of that experience, that's what's prompted them to put their words on paper, and we all see things through our own peripheral filters. That's a really key idea to understand. I got out of this whole judgment thing, right? Like judging this, like this is right, this is wrong. And I'm going to putting up the flags. Like I'm going to put up my flag and you put up yours and we're going to debate this out, right? There's no debate. Like listen, if you don't understand why it's important to spend an extra dollar on organic, then I don't have a debate for you. In fact, there's nothing I can do for you. You guys get that? Like, there is no debate. And that's what, in my opinion, that's what causes a lot of problems, it's causing a lot of breakdowns, causing a lot of stress, with not just on the macronutrient level, or the macrocosmic level, but the microcosmic, meaning our own immediate influences. Whether it be just here tonight with all of us, or it be your own family.